All right, well, good morning, everybody. John Kegel with Selltis, and today we want to talk a little bit about charting in Selltis. What I intend to do this morning is get you guys started with the basics and maybe even walk through an example or two. I imagine we'll probably go through this in 2 or 3 parts over the next couple coffees with Selltis. And remind me at the end, guys, to show you the training doc, which I'm roughly following this morning, actually. I typically don't, but this morning the training doc for charting is very good on the Selltis training website. And I'll try to remember to point that out to you before we get off the call. So this morning I want to talk about charting at a basic level and get you guys started with that and thinking about how you want to view your data, all with the intent of being able to see your data in snapshots that allow you to manage your business to the next level. And we're always about trying to get beyond this idea of a CRM system, not just Selltis, but any system, being a repository of data. We want to get beyond that thought to know that we're able to take that data and use it to plan where we're going in our business from a product perspective, from a target company perspective, from a division perspective, whatever it is that you want to track. Certainly we're linking that in Selltis with any amount of setup that Deborah or I have, or others have done with you. So charting is really about a couple of things. First of all, we want to see at a glance, as I mentioned, some trends that we're working with. And for those of you who have listened to me prattle on in other sessions, you know that I'm big on exception reporting. So I want to be able to see, we expect this or did expect this over the last 3 months or 6 months. What was the difference there? Can I go back and use that data in order to make myself more efficient, either at the top line revenue or more fun to increase my margins? Okay, so charting in Selltis really is just about changing the existing lists or views into a chart. And then we'll get into how to modify that chart by various types. We have, I think, 6 types available to you in Selltis. And then I'll show you how to start to modify that chart and allow your users to really on the fly edit that chart also for their particular need at that point in their workday. So with Selltis, you can turn any set of data into a graph or a chart, and we can then depict that information in a way that, again, allows you to see those trends or gaps or exceptions. Questions so far? Again, the goal is to be able to easily understand your data and then dive in detail. So one of the beauties of the charting in Selltis is it's not necessarily a separate thing. It's actually that same list view in Selltis that you're used to working with. All right, so here's some examples of the different kinds of charts, obviously, that we have in Selltis. This is just a screenshot of a products dashboard where we have a particular product here, and then we're just looking at the charts related to that product, perhaps an ops loading or ops input trend chart, or a forecast chart, or a value index chart, all of those types of things. So what I thought I'd do is go through the screenshots for 3 or 4 minutes and then use that same data to, rather than flipping back and forth to my demo database, I'll go through the screenshots, explain them, and then go do the same thing in my demo database. Does that make sense to you guys? All right.
Good.
So,
Yeah,
all right.
mic off.
Good. All right, the first thing you would simply do is in a view, go to View Properties, and then you'll see that there is a type of view list at the top. And this varies just a little bit, but you can change a list to a chart simply by changing this particular value in the view properties. Once you do that, you will have an additional value right here in the top left. So you guys are used to hitting the fields or format or general, and then you'll have a fourth value here with chart. Now, just as an aside, when you're editing or building a desktop, you can also just create a simple chart view right here. So we're in the desktop editor at this point, and we can add a new view of, in this case, say activities with a basic chart, which you can come back in and then edit later. All right, so now we see what I discussed just a minute ago. We've changed in this case, a list of opportunities into from a list view to a chart view. And then you can see in the view properties, not only do I have the general format and fields, but I also have a way to start to edit the chart. The first thing we would do then is work on the chart properties in terms of what type of chart it is. Here we changed the type of view it is. Now we'll change the type of chart it is. So here we can say we can have an area chart, a bar chart, and you can read these lines. Most common are column, line, and pie. I also like to show you a gauge chart here because those are nice little go, no-go types of charts. And if any of you guys have any quality control experience, you know that gauges are one of the key factors there, and we like to replicate that with a gauge chart. And a lot of times that's just plain go, no-go, or I'm 80% of the way there in my value and those types of things. So we'll get into that as we come into my demo. So here we're showing what type of chart it is, and you can easily change that at any time. When we're charting, you guys are familiar with building a view and sorting that view. So for example, we may sort a view by status, or we may sort a view more commonly by the expected close month, or the creation date, or the date that the opportunity was created if we're looking at, say, input trends by month. So the x-axis of our chart is controlled by these sorts, and hopefully you guys are familiar with this. Then the first, we have up to 4 sorts, and field 1, field 2, field 3, and field 4. Now what's cool about the charting in Selltis is, here again I show just another sort. I'm just screenshotting here, but you can then break down your chart into 4 different levels, or drill down into 4 different levels. So here we're showing a column chart where the bid date for our quote, or the bid date for our project, or whatever it is our initial sort. And you can see that it's sorted it out by month over these 10 months. The then breakdown says here is the project name here. And I'm doing that by just simply clicking on this individual first sort, which is a month. So the user in this screenshot, let me see if I can just come a little higher here. I can't. But the user in this screenshot has clicked on this month's worth of data, which is about the volume of per bid date and time. And then they've seen a breakdown of 4 different projects, which is the second sort. And again, we'll show this in the real database so you can see it a little bit better in just a moment. So the x-axis then is across the bottom, of course, and it is about the sort in the setup. So the y-axis is obviously the vertical axis. You guys remember this from 8th grade geometry and 8th grade pre-algebra, right? So the y-axis then gives us actually a number of options for what we may want to track. It could be about just record counts, as we show here. And then if that is the case, then you can show a count only. You can show a percentage in your chart only, or both. It could be about statistics instead. So we would switch our y-axis to not just be about record counts, but it would be about statistics. And you can see that we've built in 4 different statistic values for you. Average, which is the most common. Minimum and maximum may be helpful for you. You say, you know what, for this particular product line, the quote input over the last 6 months has averaged this value, or this value index on an opportunity. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay, then we're going to put it in play in just a couple of minutes here. And then last, we talked about record counts, we talked about statistics. The other radio button or option that you have on the y-axis for a chart would be about totals, which would probably be the most common. We would say we want to, in this case, look at a list of opportunities, and we want to see the overall value and then our probability of success side by side in the same chart. And you can see you can come up to 4 fields on those totals. And then there's a couple of options here. All right. Then the last part that we'll show today when we get into the database is that we want users to know that they can change the charts that you make for them on the fly. So we discussed for the x-axis that is the horizontal axis, of course, and that's up to 4 sorts. Remember, the x-axis is about sorting. But you can allow the user, if this checkbox is checked, to choose their own sorts in the graph that you make for them on the fly. And then the same thing over here. So if this was a list of opportunities, there's probably about 20 different fields that they could sort on with totals, for example. So you might tell them they can change it from put value index first, and then you know, some other value that makes sense to them. You know, the margin of their opportunities or expected margin of their opportunities. They could change that on the fly. Does that make sense to you guys? All right, and then we'll show what that looks like. So here's just a screenshot of what that looks like here. You can see that we've allowed the user to change the x-axis on the fly, and then they have a drop-down, or the y-axis on the fly. And so they have totals or statistics or count in this first list here, and then they could change, if it was totals, then they could change it to value, from value to say value index as an example. All right, so let's jump over to the demo database and put some of these things into play here. So I'm using jk.selltis.com. I'm logged in using Chrome this morning. And I just have a basic chart, a pie chart that I've started with here. And what I'll do is let me maybe just start from scratch and rebuild this pie chart, and we can look at some of the options here. And you can see this is actually probably how I did the screenshots this morning. So if we were to just go to, say, a list of opportunities, let's keep it simple. So here's Ops All, the desktop that you're used to working with. Let me just duplicate that for our purposes here. And we'll create that desktop real quick and then open it up. So here we have a list. Let me put my desktop panels away. Here we have then a list view. So we discussed that a chart can be created from that desktop editor if you'd like, But I think it's more intuitive just to take this particular view and go to View Properties. You can remember our first slide here, we said what kind of view or what type of view is this? We're just going to change it from a list to a chart. Now on the desktop you may want to duplicate the list and show it as a chart on the same desktop. Thereby the user doesn't have to flip back and forth with that. But if I hit save and apply here now, I've changed that from a list to a chart. Remember that up here on the top right, if you guys didn't know this, this little icon right here changes or flips the chart back to the list. So if I go like this, you can see then I'm rolling up my sorts. Of course, I have to break these open to see the data. The sort is by status and then by user. So it's rolling up, but you can flip back and forth between the data list and the chart. So what I'm suggesting is perhaps when you consider making a desktop like this, you put the list view on top and the chart on the bottom displaying the same data. So let me just do this real quick. This is not in the scope of this session, but let's just put that in real quick. And it's opportunity, and we're going to copy an existing view from our Ops All Charting desktop. And now I have the exact same view. The top view will be the list, the bottom view could be the chart. And if I open this up, again, we could go to View Properties. We'll change this top one back to just a simple list. Not so much of a simple list, but a list. And perhaps you want to see the data on the top and the same data represented graphically on the bottom. All right, I'm going to expand this out, and let's put this away too for a second. If I were to go to View Properties then, what we did is we took that list and changed it into a chart, and then we then have the ability to go in and edit that chart because, again, we have that new value, that fourth value in the View Properties little selection list here in the top left. We then said we could change the chart type. We changed the view type. Now we're changing the chart type. And we could put in a pie, or it could be a line chart, could be a column chart, could be a gauge chart. And then we said we could possibly allow changing that in the view simply by clicking here. Then we said our x-axis is controlled by the sort. So if we were just working with a list, you would see, sort and filter here. But it changes the language just a little bit when we choose chart. So we said we can allow changing the x-axis definition in the view, and then let's look at our sorts or our edits on the chart. So this looks slightly different when we're in, say, chart mode versus list mode, but it's really the same idea. You can see that the first field here is, the status is the first sort here, and you could certainly change this. So for example, you could say, let's say that the first sort is about expected close date, year, month, and then the second sort is about the user that's responsible for getting the job done. And we want to chart both of those values. So you can uncheck these here, but I need to have one of these checked in order to create the chart. I'm going to hit OK. And then let's hit Let's hit apply here. So in my demo data here, you can see I have broken the data down into expected close months, which really doesn't make sense on a pie chart, does it? We'd really probably rather see that in a bar chart or a line chart. But since I've allowed the user to change the chart type on the fly, we don't have to go back to view properties. We can just come right here, change it to a line, and you can see I have demo data here, so there's data all over the board here for our particular data. All right, I'm going to go back to view properties and play around with this just a little bit more. And my hopes are that you guys will go in and kind of play with some basic charts between now and our next session, or give me some real examples. Our marketing team actually has made me some nice little gifts for me to send out, so I will do that as your incentive if you send me real-world examples for the next time around. So I'm going to change this back to a pie chart. I am showing my data point values, and let's come back in. I want to sort this back to the way I had it, which was to show the let's show something a little bit different. This is a list of opportunities. Let's say it's for product this time, and who is credited for those. And I'm going to hit OK for my x-axis then. And let's come down and take a look at the y-axis next. We said that there's 3 different values that you can choose. One of them is the record counts, so you can say I have count and percentage only, which hopefully you guys saw on the fly there. Remember, I have statistics, or perhaps I want to show totals. And for this particular demonstration, I'm going to choose totals of value, and I'm going to put next to it value index as my second total. And I'm going to allow changing the y-axis in the view. I'm going to hit Save and Apply and make a permanent change. And now you can come back out and see that I've made a pie chart of all of my opportunities and sorting them by product. And then I've given that total by value here on the top. If I were to change this from a pie chart to a column chart, I can then show side by side the value and next to it that secondary total, which is the value index. And you can see my x-axis, again, that sort is about my product group, and then my y-axis is about the total. So we're still kind of in the basic mode here, but hopefully you're getting a little bit excited about learning, how I can show where I've been graphically. Certainly we would take out of demo data, it would not make as much sense, but certainly we could take this chart view and say by date range for the last 6 months, or expected close looking forward for the next 6 months. What am I expected to do with a particular, if I'm a distributor or a representative, what am I expected to do with a particular supplier or a manufacturer? Sean, what would I expect to do with a particular product group, or even a division, say municipal versus industrial? So we have those things that you can break down here to look forward or to look backwards as we go along in this.
Let me ask you a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
This might be a dumb question, but what are you calling a value index?
Oh, sure. So if we were to, let's restore this down a little bit so we see our list view on the top, make it easy to look at a particular opportunity. So the default system for looking at an opportunity includes both a value and a value index here on the form. So we're saying that, if you manipulate the probability either manually or by using, say, a sales process series of checkboxes that allow you to identify key milestones in a strategic sales process. You could get an idea for the amount of business that you might close next month or next quarter.
Gotcha. I didn't realize that's how you were calculating it.
Yeah, absolutely. The idea would be, if we have a decent number of opportunities in the system, statistically wise, we could say if I have 10 of these, here, let's make this easy for my math here. If I have 10 of these opportunities with an expected close day of next quarter, and if I'm keeping up with detailing out my opportunities, I wouldn't expect to see $360,000 worth of revenue. I'd lose some, I'd win some, I'd expect to see $180,000 worth of revenue.
Gotcha.
Okay, good. That's a great question, though. All right, let me look at my notes real quick and see what I've forgotten. We talked about the y-axis, the x-axis, and on-the-fly edits. We talked about how to change a list view into a chart view. And again, you may want to edit a desktop to have the list and the chart side by side, left and right, or up and down. You may choose to take the same chart and display it on a desktop in 3 different ways. You may want to see the counts in one view, and side by side with it, the totals, for example. So you're just duplicating that view, 3 times or 4 times on the same desktop. So at a glance, you can look at the exact same data without having to manipulate and kind of work your pivot table, if you will, as you work through that. But I hope that's a good start for you guys in thinking about how to display your data graphically. I wanted to point out to you, let's see where I put it, on www.selltis.com/training. I basically have just gone through this document right here. And if you haven't been through some of these other documents, you might go through those first just to get a quick reminder of how to set up desktops, how to add views to a desktop, and then dive into this chart here. The next time around, I want to take it to the next level and start to talk about how to display a couple of pieces of data against each other in a chart. And what I'm specifically talking about is, again, this idea of moving beyond the repository of data into being able to see where I'm supposed to go. And so we'll take a look at charts against various inputs like product, vendor, and then get you introduced to the idea of showing how to put those goals that we talked about over the last couple months into those charts. On the same web page here, if I go to, instead of documents, videos, I want you to know that we are trying to record these with my scratchy little voice. And if you wanted to look back here, you'll see I have the goals 1 and 2 in here. This one especially might be helpful as a review before the next session. Again, Deborah and I are available to you to go into this in depth. If you have some specific examples that you don't want to share, say in a session like this, please let us know, and we'll be happy to roll up our sleeves and get in there and make sure you're seeing what you want to see and earning the best return on investment of your resources in investing in Selltis for your business. So with that, I'd ask if there's any questions.
I have one more, John.
Yeah.
Back that last chart you showed us with the product lines or product vendors and I guess it was open opportunities.
Yeah, it was a list of any opportunities, but yes.
Is there a way that you can have a list like that and then have as part of your drop down and selections have a date range? Say I wanted to show that list of opportunities as they were created for a certain month or a certain quarter.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we did is on the x-axis is where you would typically put the month or the quarter, by the way. So you have year, month, and quarter available to you in SQL. Year, quarter, and month. I should put that in order to make it more intuitive, right? So view properties, and remember the x-axis is on the is the sorting here. And this is going to look a little funny just because the demo data has a bunch of different dates in it. But here, let's just make our initial sort not about the product, but about, say, the date it was entered. Date, year, month. Oh, I forgot that you can actually put days in there too. But you'll notice there's not weeks available on SQL. So talk to Mr. Gates about that. But date, year, month. And then we could say maybe our second sort is credited to user, and then our third sort could be, say, for product, right? So now we have a 3-layer breakdown in our chart. If we hit OK, and I'm just going to hit apply here, Rich. Now it's about months. So let me filter this just to make it a little easier to see. Let's say the date is quick change here. The date is between, say, 24 months ago and tomorrow. Hopefully that'll make our graph look a little prettier. Right, so here now we're seeing them month by month for the last 24 months. This is opportunity input, and it's actually calculating a percentage, based on the overall percentage. And here's 1 is 5.9%. But if we look, we can drill down into a particular month. And now we see it's credited to user. There's 2 for Selltis sales. And if I'm double clicking, if I do that again, you can see both of those opportunities were for a Foxborough product, and that was our 3rd layer down. Up here, I'm glad you asked that question because I should have shown you this earlier. I hope you remember that I put 3 sorts in there. Now I'm going backwards. You can see I'm looking at the product, and then the user, and then the date. Here's my order going back up. So if I click all, I'll refresh the view. Again, I can drill down. Here's 3 opportunities for this particular month. I double click on it. All 3 of them were credited to this character named system. And if I double click again, all 3 of them are for the Foxborough product. So my demo data is pretty focused on one particular product just to make sure I have enough data in any particular view. But did that answer your question, Rich?
Absolutely. It shows me just what I needed.
Great. So yeah, a lot of times the column chart or the line chart will be better than that, better than a pie chart or a gauge chart for that. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen if let me hit line chart here first, and then you can of course see how that comes across. If I hit a gauge chart, that doesn't help me very much in that kind of view. It would be more like, am I meeting my targets for a particular month or a particular quarter?
Yeah.
So, all right, good question.
Good deal.
Other questions? All right, I'll see you guys next time, which is 2 weeks out from today. That would be the 27th. And again, in the meantime, if you have specific questions or you want help just to get started, Deborah and I are happy to help you. Give us a call, and we're available. I think everybody knows our contact information. But if not, John K. at Selltis.com. You should have it in the invite that I sent you, and I'll get you hooked up with Deborah H. at Selltis.com. And she's also monitors the support lines too. So if you have support at Selltis.com, you can get to Deborah that way too. You guys have a great weekend, and happy Valentine's Day, and I look forward to talking to you next time.
All right. Thanks, John.
My
Very
pleasure.
good. Thanks, John.